The story begins with the opulent, yet stifling confines of the royal palace, where a hierarchy built on bloodline and power mercilessly crushes those at the bottom. The chief saintess, Lady Ilichica, stands adorned in intricate, ruffled finery, her expression one of cold amusement as she looms over a trembling figure. Beside her, the crown prince, distinguishable by his ornate military-style jacket and sharp features, delivers a devastating proclamation with a sneer that mars his royal visage. They direct their collective scorn toward Mio, a young woman whose wide, watery eyes convey a profound sense of shock and betrayal. The prince confirms the cruel reality that Mio, despite her title as the fiancée to the crown prince and a duke's daughter, is viewed as nothing more than a useless apprentice saintess. The air creates a heavy atmosphere of judgment, emphasized by the mocking whispers and derisive glances exchanged between the noble pair. The ridicule intensifies as the prince questions the very logic of the temple keeping someone like Mio within its hallowed walls. He callously highlights the passage of time, musing aloud whether it has been 6 or 7 years since she arrived, effectively erasing her years of dedication with a single dismissive thought. Lady Ilichica, standing close to the prince with an air of possessive entitlement, covers her mouth in a gesture of faux shock, suggesting that Mio has remained stuck performing menial grunt work simply because she lacks the capability to ascend to true sainthood. Mio, appearing small and defenseless against their verbal assault, lowers her gaze, her internal resilience fracturing under the weight of their accusations. She acknowledges internally that she receives no payment and survives only on scraps, yet she persists so that the tax money funding the temple does not go to waste, striving to do whatever she can to be of service. 2 burly guards, their faces etched with indifference and their bodies clad in heavy plate armor, approach Mio from behind, their looming shadows engulfing her small frame. One guard remarks with callous practicality that giving such a nice apprentice robe to someone like her is a waste of resources. They reinforce the brutal meritocracy of their world, stating that failing to become a saintess after 6 or 7 years marks her as a disgrace to the temple. The verdict is delivered with finality: she is deemed worthless trash. Without a shred of hesitation or empathy, the order comes down to dispose of her. The guards grip her slender arms with gauntlet hands, hoisting her up as if she were indeed inanimate garbage. Mio's eyes widen in sheer terror, her pupils trembling as the reality of her expulsion turns physical. The command echoes with absolute authority: she is never to be allowed near the temple again. The scene shifts to the exterior execution of this cruel order, where the guards drag Mio through the stone corridors, her feet barely touching the ground. One guard, maintaining a grip on her left arm, coldly advises her to be grateful that she is merely being disposed of rather than executed, implying that death was a viable alternative for her incompetence. Mio realizes with dawning horror that the crown prince's order for disposal was literal. She is being taken to the trash. The guards pause before a large, wooden disposal chute or bin, discussing the logistics of their task with mundane apathy. One guard claims to have a great idea, interpreting their orders with malicious compliance. They were told to toss out the trash, so they will toss Mio out just like the rest of the refuse. They question what to do with this one, referring to Mio as an object rather than a human being. With a rhythmic chant of 1, 2, the guards swing Mio's light body back and forth to generate momentum. Mio, suspended in the air, processes the absurdity that throw it out meant being physically hurled into a garbage dump. She lets out a small, pathetic sound of distress as she is launched into the darkness. The guards point toward the abyss, confirming the destination of her exile. She lands amidst a pile of discarded leaves and refuse within a dark, wooden-walled enclosure. The impact is cushioned by the debris, but the indignity burns. Immediately, a cloud of dust and foul odor assaults her senses, causing her to recoil and cover her nose. The stench is overpowering, a physical manifestation of her new reality. Acting on instinct and a desperate need for cleanliness, Mio activates her magic. She whispers, "Purification," and a brilliant light erupts from her hands, illuminating the gloomy, trash-filled room. The magic works instantly and visibly. The panel displays a before and after comparison where a pile of chaotic refuse is transformed into sparkling cleanliness. Mio reflects on the nature of her power, noting that she never understood the distinction others made between merely making something look clean and actually removing the filth that cannot be seen. To her, purification magic fundamentally means to remove filth and make it clean, in the most absolute sense. She realizes she had always used this magic in secret, terrified of being reprimanded for using it incorrectly or without formal instruction. As the sparkles of her purification magic fade, revealing a clean wooden floor, Mio turns her attention to a broken wooden stool lying in the corner. She recalls how she also used recovery magic in secret, similar to her purification. Observers had always told her that heal and fix were distinct concepts, a nuance she admits she never understood. To Mio, recovery simply means returning to normal. She casts the spell, and the broken leg of the stool snaps back into place, the wood knitting together seamlessly until the chair appears brand new. She blinks in mild surprise at her own efficacy, noting the chair is back to normal. Emboldened by her success, Mio scans her surroundings, which no longer look like a dungeon but rather a potential living space. She spots a piece of fabric that could serve as a curtain and a table that, while discarded, is functional. A realization dawns on her. This space, which she has just cleaned and furnished with discarded items, is actually larger than the tiny room under the stairs she occupied at the temple. A smile touches her lips as she jokingly considers just living here, finding the irony that a trash heap offers better accommodations than the royal palace. Memories of her harsh upbringing flood her mind, contrasting sharply with her current small victory. She recalls the haughty voices of the nobility reminding her that a commoner saintess, like her, does not deserve to live like a noble. She was brought to the royal palace temple at the tender age of 7, solely because she possessed the rare aptitude for light element magic. Her parents, tearfully sending her off, had believed they were securing a life of luxury for their daughter, far better than the poverty they endured. The reality, however, was a grim inversion of their hopes. Mio was shoved into a cramped, lightless cupboard under the stairs. Despite promises of 3 meals a day, she was often fed only twice, and frequently she received only the leftovers from the other saintesses. 1 in 3 times, there was nothing left at all, forcing her to work while gnawing hunger pains plagued her belly. The abuse was not merely structured neglect but active malice. Mio remembers scrubbing floors while being berated by older saintesses who called her a commoner and threatened that her failure would invite mockery upon them all. Her daily routine was grueling, waking before sunrise to clean the entire temple, and then from 10 o'clock onwards, assisting the other saintesses with their preparations. Panels depict Mio struggling to brush the long, luxurious hair of a noble saintess who snaps at her for pulling too hard. If she messed up, physical punishment followed. Mio internalizes this abuse, wondering if she is simply shit at brushing hair, blaming her own incompetence rather than their cruelty. The social hierarchy within the temple was rigid. There were roughly 10 saintesses, and with the exception of Mio, every single one was a noble girl, mostly born into their status or the daughters of nobles who married into valuable light magic bloodlines. Those with blood too noble, countess rank or higher, did not even deign to sleep at the temple, leaving Mio, the sole commoner, to fill the role of a temple maid due to staffing shortages. The visual composition highlights the gap between them. The noble girls stand in elegant groups, faces obscured or haughty, while Mio is isolated, staring at her own worn boots. She realized early on that she could not talk back to them, even when struck. However, Mio found a silent way to cope. She discovered that if she cast recovery instantly upon herself or others, the pain would vanish before it could fully register. This evolved into a strategy. While brushing the noble girl's hair, she would continuously cast a low-level recovery spell. This ensured that even if she snagged a tangle, the pain was negated instantly, stopping the girls from hitting her. The panels show her quietly chanting recovery over and over while tending to the shimmering hair of her tormentors, apologizing meekly while secretly mitigating the damage. Her saintess duties were equally grueling and thankless. Even with 5 minutes before her shift, she would frantically clean her own uniform with purification and fix her appearance with recovery to avoid being scolded for looking disheveled. The primary duty of the temple was to dispense recovery magic to the populace, and every day a massive line formed outside. However, access was strictly gate-kept. Only those with approved requests could receive healing. Wealthy patrons paid exorbitant sums to skip the line and receive priority treatment from the noble saintesses. Mio observes the other saintesses fighting over high-profile clients like knights or wealthy merchants, eager for the jewels given as tips. In stark contrast, Mio was assigned the dregs, the poor who could not afford to pay much, if anything. The discrimination extended to the clients themselves. When Mio appeared at the podium to heal the commoners, the crowd reacted with disappointment and anger. Seeing her small, malnourished frame, the result of years of food deprivation, they judged her as a kid and demanded a real saintess. They hurled insults, accusing the temple of reserving real healing for the rich and mocking Mio as an apprentice who was 10 years too early to be useful. Mio stood before them, clasping her hands in prayer, absorbing the cruel words while preparing to do the work no one else wanted to do. Even the commoners she sought to help despised her for her status and appearance, telling her to stick to grunt work. Despite the relentless negativity, there were moments of quiet competency. Mio recalls a time when a vice captain and a knight visited. The noble saintesses fawned over the handsome knight, ignoring their duties. Meanwhile, Mio was ordered to clean the room so the nobles could flirt without distraction. A noble saintess, disgusted by Mio's mere presence, kicked a bucket of water or tea onto the floor, creating a mess solely to assert dominance. She sneered that commoners were disgusting down to the way they moved and demanded Mio wipe the floor properly. Mio, staring at the spreading liquid, realized she could clean it instantly with magic but was forced to do it by hand to satisfy the noble's sadism. Snapping back to the present in the trash pit, Mio picks up a discarded rag. She cleans it with purification magic, watching the grime vanish. She reflects on the pathetic nature of her situation. She really is going to live in a trash can forever. Yet, her spirit remains unbroken. She finds a stained apron and restores it with recovery magic, washing it before it stains in her mind, and laughing softly at the absurdity. She acknowledges that being thrown away didn't change her life much. She was already treated like trash, so she lets herself accept this new reality. While rummaging through the debris, Mio discovers a leather bag that was thrown out with its contents still inside. She wonders if it belonged to an adventurer. Inside, she finds dried meat and potions, a literal lifeline. She realizes that without food she would be in trouble, so this find is miraculous. She takes a bite of the dried meat and is overwhelmed by the flavor, having rarely eaten such things. She also finds candy, a luxury she has only seen saintesses eat, and marvels at its sweetness. Suddenly, a loud clatter from above interrupts her scavenging. The lid of the disposal chute opens, and more trash rains down. Mio flinches, narrowly avoiding the debris, but notes with relief that at least it wasn't poison. The new avalanche of trash creates a slope against the wall. Mio realizes that the accumulation of garbage might actually provide an escape route. She looks up at the opening, gauging the distance. It is evening, the light dimming. She reasons that if she climbs now, she might be able to get out. With a "thank God" on her lips, she begins to scramble up the pile of refuse. She reaches the lid and pushes against it with all her might, her small arms straining. However, the lid refuses to budge. She tries casting purification on it, hoping to clear any obstruction, but it remains sealed tight. Panic sets in as she realizes she is trapped. Just then, the lid opens from the outside again, not to let her out, but to deposit more trash. A massive teddy bear and other debris fall through, knocking Mio back down the slope she just climbed. She tumbles down, lamenting that the furniture she just cleaned is now buried again under fresh garbage. Defeated but safe, Mio retreats to the corner she fortified with the desk and chair, which successfully blocked the trash avalanche from crushing her living area. She realizes she can't keep watching the lid forever. The sun has gone down, plunging the pit into darkness. She casts a simple light spell, illuminating her small sanctuary. Sitting on her restored chair, clutching the adventurer's potion and wearing the restored apron, Mio reflects on her day. To her, this day in the trash was a happy one. It was like a treasure hunt. She ate meat, tasted sweet potions, and wore something other than her hated apprentice uniform. She closes her eyes, a serene smile on her face, finding happiness in the most unlikely of places. Meanwhile, in a parallel narrative of rejection, the scene cuts to a group of adventurers. A man named Hark stands before his party, his expression one of shock and hurt. His former teammates, a woman with sharp eyes and a man with wavy hair, look at him with undisguised contempt. Hark explains that his S-rank status dropped to B rank solely because of the aftereffects of an injury, implying a temporary setback. However, his party sees him only as a liability. The woman tells him bluntly that he will just hold them back. She mocks him, saying his rank is dropping and he should retire while he still holds his title, calling his refusal to quit embarrassing. Hark tries to laugh it off, asking what they are talking about, insisting that once he is healed, he will come back. He clenches his fist, desperate to believe in the bonds of their party. But the male party member shatters this illusion. He tells Hark that he only made S-rank because of them, and questions if Hark really thinks he can climb back up alone. He cruelly asks if Hark thought they would leave his spot empty waiting for his return. The verdict is harsh and final. They don't need someone who gets injured. They call him trash. To add injury to insult, they demand his gear, claiming it belongs to the party. They strip him of his equipment and tell him never to show his face again. As they walk away, they demand he address them properly with Sama, enforcing his demotion to a subordinate status. Hark is left standing alone, watching their retreating backs. He grits his teeth, swearing to himself that he will climb back up in no time once he gets used to fighting with his injured leg. He holds a single coin in his gloved hand, staring at it with intense frustration. He curses his situation, the word, damn, escaping his lips. The narrative converges as the focus returns to Mio in the trash pit. She rubs her sleepy eyes, the magical light glowing softly around her. The narrator notes that Mio has begun her life inside the trash can, seconds before an inevitable meeting. Hark, the man who was just declared trash by his peers, is approaching the very place where Mio, the girl declared trash by the kingdom, has made her home. The threads of their fates, both severed by the betrayal of those they served, are about to intertwine in the darkness of the disposal pit.